Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings. Make sure you download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Wednesday. Make that March 1st 3-1, as in Cleveland blew a 3-1 series lead in the 2016 World Series.
To who, Luke?
The Chicago Cubs.
Oh.
And what happened, Corey? When they blew that 3-1 lead?
That would mean that the Cubs won the World Series.
The Cubs won the World Series.
There
We
we
can
go.
confirm that.
Yes. What does Brennan say? Yeah, correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yep, 2016, the Cubs.
Yes.
People forget that.
People forget that. So, hey to everybody in the chat. Thanks for waiting for us. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel for CHGO Sports. That way you don't miss any of our shows, any of our videos, all the good stuff that keeps going out there. It's the best way to interact during the live show. And we have a great crew that comes in every single day. We have the diehards showing up and in the chat. And if you are a podcast person, Spotify or whatever, make sure you hit the likes and the thumbs up and rate and review and all those good things. And we appreciate it. Cody Del Mendo, Corey Friedman, Ryan Herrera, Luke Stuckmeyer, we're all here. We have the Matt Mervis interview that Ryan did out in Arizona coming up on today's podcast. So we're going to hear from Mash Mervis, who's moving up the prospect rankings according to some, maybe has a shot at making this team at some point this season, if not opening day, depending on who you ask. We'll hear that. We'll talk about that, and we've got some other fun stuff coming up on the podcast as well today. First, we want to talk about the injury a little bit to Seiya Suzuki. Yesterday we had the news, moderate oblique strain. He's not going to play in the World Baseball Classic, and we said, well, who does this open the door for? If he's not ready for opening day, who would it open the door for? And we started going through some names. And then I went back and kind of fast-forwarded through yesterday's game a little bit. And I didn't watch all of it, but two of the guys that we've mentioned as having an opportunity to show something stepped up yesterday. One was Nelson Velasquez, who had struggled so far early. He goes out and comes up with a 2-run homer, goes 2 for 2. And Brennan Davis was actually an at-bat that I saw live, a good at-bat against the Brewers, and he ripped a double into left field. And I'll just say this. When you see Brennan Davis, he looks like a baseball player.
Yeah, he looks like a big
right?
leaguer.
Forget all the other stuff. I know the expectations are high. We'll talk about where he is in the top 10 rankings for the Cubs prospect list later in the show. When you see him, the eyeballs tell you that it's like when people used to say, look at Michael Jordan. He looks like a basketball player should look. Like he's exactly what you want to see. Brennan Davis is pretty close to that as a baseball player. I look at him and say, that looks like a guy who could be really good at baseball. He was yesterday. I'm not saying he's making the opening day roster, but there's an opportunity for him to at least open some eyes.
And, well, you look at it and you just think of the fact that there's a reason he was the number one prospect for, as recently as like before last season, right? He was the number one prospect, and he was still, even with missing most of last year, I think he's still a top 100 prospect, if I'm not mistaken, or he may have just slid off.
Yeah.
But so, like, regardless of him missing most of an entire year of development, like, evaluators are still insanely high on him, and that comes from, obviously the player that he's shown, but the look, the skills that he brings, and it is tough to say, like, being injured for the year, for an injury that at this point is a one-off thing. It doesn't seem like an injury that would reoccur. Knock on wood, obviously. But it's tough to like knock a guy because he got hurt and missed a year, right? To completely drop him off lists of where he was ranked very highly before that. So I think you still look at it as like the outcome has seemed good. That was the best case scenario as far as back surgeries go when it happened. It doesn't seem like it's affecting him anymore. But have all these guys just have now passed him? Like that's where I kind of like, how have these guys passed him so quickly when he still, it seems like the same player he was before the back surgery. He has to prove it still, but like there's nothing to say otherwise at this point.
All I needed to see was that video that our friend Scotty Chags from Marquee tweeted yesterday of him running the bases after he hit the double. And he looked healthy. And to me, That's the number one thing from him. If he's healthy,
sure.
then I think he's gonna play like we hoped and what we believed that he could do. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't understand why he fell so far down on a lot of the rankings lists. But again, like I've said before, it's a rankings list. It doesn't really mean it means something in some grand scheme, but it doesn't tell. It's not the be all tell all because.
Absolutely.
I mean, how can we say it is whenever no one knew who Christopher Morel was last year? Like some people knew who he was, but it wasn't like he was on any major radar. So when Brennan Davis was on that major radar, doing exactly what Matt Mervis did 2 years ago, going from single A all the way to triple A in 1 year, but also getting into that top 100 and getting into the top 20 by the end of the year. I mean. Yeah, you could clearly see the talent. He clearly looks like a guy who can be a guy, you know. So yeah, to me, it's health and him running the bases was great to watch.
It's all. I think it's all just seeing if he's healthy. Yeah. I think getting back to like your original question of like, if Seiya misses time, like does Brennan get that opportunity? I don't know. Like I think that they're going to, because of the situation with last year and his health. I think their focus is going to be making sure he's healthy and getting him back on whatever developmental timeline they wanted him on. Because, like, when we talked about it last year, we were thinking maybe, like, late in the season, just because he had some stuff he still needed to work through. He's a very talented player. If he is fully healthy, he is a top 100 prospect. He is a really talented young player that we should all be excited about. But even going into last year, the feeling, at least when you talk to like minor league people or like through the organization, was he wasn't a finished product yet at the minor league level. So like my guess is that just because there might be some time in right field, I don't know that means it's just going to go to him. But if they feel like he's healthy, he has a hot spring, like, maybe, right? Like maybe you speed that up.
I agree. I do think that if you had the scenario of Velasquez and Brennan Davis both played well this spring and Seiya wasn't ready but might be ready 3 weeks into the season, I think they would go Velasquez and push Brennan back. The one scenario that maybe we haven't considered with Brennan Davis is Cody and I questioned whether or not he was ready for the big leagues going into last season. You said right away, nope, not going to happen mid-season, right? Was that because the Cubs were nowhere near being ready to win yet, like compete, and they knew it, and they're like, we're not going to rush this guy. We don't want to do anything. Because if that was the case, and he was close to being ready to coming up, but they were like, this isn't the right year, so why would we rush it? We might as well let him have another half a season at AAA. Well, it's a year later, and he lost that year, but if he's back to the same situation he was, and that was the situation, well, then maybe it's sooner rather than later. I just don't think opening day is an option.
No. And I when I think about it, I'm like, would you rather have, and this goes for a lot of the prospects, especially at a time when, like, I think back to Chris Bryant and how he didn't hit a home run or whatever for like his first however many games it was, 20-something, maybe even the first month or whatever he was up.
I feel like it was a good month.
Yeah, it was at least a month when he came up, right?
Yep.
And it's also that, it's not a one-size-fit-all thing, but it's also like you're bringing up one of your top prospects, putting a lot on him, and also expecting him to acclimate to the major leagues at a time when Chicago weather is as unpredictable as it gets. Like April in Chicago is, and even early May, as unpredictable as it gets. So for Brennan Davis, I kind of look at it the same way. It's like you don't need to have this guy on the opening day roster. He missed a lot of time. He still has less than 250 plate appearances at the AAA level. He could get a lot of those at AAA to start the year. Maybe bring him up, if he's ready, late May, early June, and then you got summer. You're letting him learn the major leagues and acclimate to it when the conditions are at their best that they get in Chicago. Versus April, where especially if you're bringing him up to kind of take Seiya Suzuki's place in right field to start, you're like, okay, you're throwing him, a first-time major leaguer, into one of the hard. April at Wrigley and right field is probably one of the hardest positions to learn in baseball. I don't know that for sure, but we know how hard it could be. So you're throwing him into a very weird situation to try to learn the major league game when, again, he doesn't even have 250 plate appearances at the big league level, or at the AAA level. So that all just kind of goes into what Luke had just said, is like opening day seems like a very unrealistic scenario for me when it comes to when Brennan Davis might crack the big leagues. Like, if he surprises us and is that like that few percent chance of him making the opening day roster actually comes true, then that's like, all more power to him for sure. But the way I look at it now, it's like, and from what, the conversations I've had, it's like the lean is to have him start at AAA, prove he's healthy, kind of maybe conquer it the way he didn't do it last season because of the injury. And then he it shouldn't be too long before he's ready to come to the big leagues, as long as he's healthy and playing well. But opening day just doesn't seem.
I just don't think
right.
like his situation is one that is going to be dictated by opportunity like this, right? Like if the Cubs felt he was ready to go and they wanted him to be their everyday center fielder, like they probably don't sign Cody Bellinger, or Cody Bellinger is DHing or playing first base. They're not signing. Like I think his situation, if they believe he's healthy, they're going to treat like a top prospect and a guy that was ranked as their number one prospect, which is he's on Brennan's timeline. He is not either going to AAA or not because Seiya may or may not be out for a few weeks. That's just I just don't see his situation being dictated by that. But I also understand there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, look, he's in the big league lineup in camp now. You need somebody to play. Like, why not? Right? Like, if they want to do that, fine. But I think that they're going to prioritize Brennan Davis being healthy and having a long, successful career as a Chicago Cub. And I don't think, like, this opportunity arising is going to really play too much into that.
Yeah, Dub says less than 60 plate appearances at AAA. Sure, some guys skip AAA and just go right from AA, but it's not the ideal scenario for developing a young player. I will say, Ryan, as a former meteorologist, the weather does stink in Iowa early in the season too. But I agree with everything else you said.
To your point, Schwarber was one of those guys.
Yeah.
But at the time when the Cubs called him up, they were in it in July.
Nico too, right?
Well, Nico was like
Nico was like a break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah, right. Like that was an emergency. They were in a playoff race.
It's different than the
Correct
start
me
of
if
the
I'm
season.
wrong. Kyle came up to DH on the road, right? Or am I misremembering?
Yeah, I remember him. It was like
he did
in
do that at
Cleveland.
one point.
Yeah,
I believe
the
it was in
left field
Cleveland.
thing wasn't like a set. I don't think left field was set for him until like 16.
I gotta like rethink my timeline, but I thought that was or
Either
was
way,
it like
though,
Detroit or Cleveland? He came up to DH,
something
right?
like that.
Also
yeah.
older, played college and all that
That's
stuff
true.
too.
But either way, like, yeah, you're right. We've seen it before. Schwarber also top 4 pick in the MLB draft when the Cubs got him. And, he's been compared to Babe Ruth. Whatever.
Wasn't coming off of a major
He wasn't
back
coming
surgery,
off a major injury,
so.
Yeah, so I would say for me, the only way that I would want him on the opening day roster or starting opening day is if not only if Seiya is out, but also if there is another injury. Fingers crossed that not. We're knocking on all kinds of wood here. I just think injuries would have to pile up in the most weird and just gut-wrenching way. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how
friend
I
of the
feel.
program, Jeff Everson, was
Confirms
Cleveland in 2015, which is funny because then a year later in Cleveland, Kyle DHs and they win the World Series.
That's right.
People forget that.
People forget that.
No, and then I agree with what Cody's saying because when you look back with what Morel did last year, right? Like I think 2021 he had some games up in AAA, but he obviously started 2022 in AA again. And the only reason he jumped AAA and went straight to the big leagues on Cody's birthday, the birthday of Delmetrics,
That's right.
was because
What a day.
because of all the injuries they had, because the injuries they were having, or guys just even having a little tweak or whatever, they needed someone that they could just plug in around the baseball, around the field, right? That's why Morel came up, because of all that. So what you're saying, Cody, is like that is sort of the worst case scenario, that Brennan Davis is up on opening day because of injuries. If for whatever reason he just tears up spring and they're like, okay, we could start him on the big league roster opening day, like whatever that percentage is, that comes true. Again, more power to him. But like if he's up because they need someone to play, like then you're looking at a pretty bad scenario for the Cubs to start the year.
Absolutely.
He'd have to like lead the Cactus League in home runs type thing.
Yeah. I mean,
in my opinion. By the way, Connor pointed out in the chat that this is his first YouTube Usually a podcast guy, so welcome, Connor.
Captain Tater Tot also said that it was his first.
Nice.
I want to say
Some
there's a few
first-time
people in here.
YouTubers.
Yeah, a few people in here right now that are hopping on into the chat for
Enjoying our beautiful faces.
must love it.
And you're getting a look of me without a hat on. Congratulations.
Right. I mean, how many? That's been like 3 days now, and everybody's like, "Did Cody get something different about Cody?
Yeah. Does he get when is the hat coming back?
Did he get new shoes? No, his hair looks different.
I did get new shoes yesterday.
Oh boy, here we go.
They're not Jordans. They're Nike Air Force Ones.
Oh,
I had to feel better about I had to feel better about the oblique injury.
yeah,
So I bought some Air Force
yeah.
Ones.
Okay.
Sounds right. Speaking of injuries, Gavin Lux, the torn ACL for the Dodgers, out for the season. He was going to replace Trey Turner at shortstop. So I ask you, do the Cubs, with their plethora of infielders, have anybody that might help the Dodgers and, bring something back that might help the Cubs in a different way at a different time? There's no way all those guys are going to be around once the season starts in the organization. Somebody's going to be moved. So, David Bodie's had a pretty good spring so far. I'm not saying he'd be their starting shortstop, but they're going to need depth to get through the season. What about?
I feel like McKinstry is like the obvious one.
Because he played for him, or Rios could go back and they could move guys around.
I don't know. When I look at it, it's kind of like they gave up on McKinstry pretty early in his own
I thought
career.
it was just because they
Madrigal.
didn't have
Have
a
him come
spot for him
back.
to play
Madrigal.
though.
Well, I mean, that was part of it, but it was, they traded him for a reliever.
Okay, fair. But at the same time, it's March 1st, and they let Trey Turner go, and they let they didn't let, but their opening day shortstop, who's proven to be a very good major leaguer, tore his ACL and is out for the year. They're kind of like, I wouldn't say it's panic mode, but you got to do something. Like, unless they made a major trade with a team that might have a shortstop prospect ready to go or something like that. Like, what are you going to do? I feel like you got to fill that gap with something.
I think maybe.
I don't think McKinstry will be their everyday shortstop. I'm just saying that they need a guy to
They
go with
probably
another
wish
guy that they
Elvis
have.
Andrus was still available and hadn't signed that quick deal with the White Sox.
Probably.
Simmons or VR might still be on the market.
That's what I'm talking
I haven't
about.
seen any
Esteban
news about it.
Quiroz is still on the Cubs roster somewhere.
That's
I
true.
think they call on some depth, but knowing them, they'll roll with Miguel Rojas and Chris Taylor, and one of them will be an MVP
all-star,
candidate somehow. And
Chris
they'll
Taylor
figure
will
it
just
out.
continue to be like
Right.
the next version of Ben Zobrist.
Yeah, and
He's
I
always
don't,
been a guy
I
that
don't
I've
know
loved.
what their top prospect list looks like.
Although
really,
maybe this is the scenario where like the Cubs keep pumping this idea that Madrigal looks kind of good at
right,
third
that's what I'm
base. Like
thinking.
maybe the
Yeah.
Saw another video of
Can
him
they
fielding
convince
in
somebody?
at third
Like-
Hits.
yesterday.
Did you see him chucking it from third base over there?
Corey's been asking
Camelback Ranch?
Corey's been asking all winter, like, can he even get it past the pitcher's mound? He's proven to do it, Corey.
Great. That's No, hey,
No, he
that is
did.
what I asked, and he is.
He had some. He had
I
some
said
good
a low
throws.
bar. He is leaping over it. He's putting his whole
Yes.
body into those throws, but he's doing it. So
And like
it's
you
fine.
met Dustin saying in the chat too, Miguel Rojas, I'm saying they probably have guys to be the starters, but then they're going to need somebody to
Depth.
fill in the depth pieces. And the Cubs certainly have a lot of infield depth right now that might be a trade partner down the
see
line.
if
Or
I
they just
mean,
might pick somebody up off waivers.
See if you can get some single A prospect that touches 100 every now and again with no command and throw him in the pitch lab.
The only reason I think that it kind of makes sense for the Cubs and them to like talk at all is just, again, for depth and just someone to fill in. I mean, they lost their starting shortstop, and the Cubs have all these infielders that aren't going to get as much playing time. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't. I guess it's a scenario. I just don't know if those are the guys they come calling to fill those holes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what's around the rest of the league, but there has to be guys that are at that kind of level or better that are also, up for grabs, so to speak. Like
Ron says make a trade for Javi Baez. Well, that would be
that would be
Maybe
quite
the,
a trade.
The Dodgers might be able to get him to finally stop swinging at all those bad pitches. That would be scary. I think if
We'll
Javi
see.
Baez went to the Dodgers,
Javi
that'd
had
be
some
scary.
big hits in that stadium, so he might like.
Yeah.
Dodgers fans don't like him either. They'd find a way to like him though.
Did you see? Actually, Sarah, I think you have it. We have Drew Smyly, yesterday's starter, talking about the pitch clock for the first time. You know, a lot of the minor league guys have seen it before. Yeah. They know what to expect. But veteran guys like Smyly really had no idea what to expect. So this is what he said after his first Cactus League start with the pitch clock.
Obviously trying to adjust to the pitch clock. That's way more of an adjustment than I thought it would be for me, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm a pretty fast pitcher. I thought I was, but I felt myself like definitely being rushed throughout those 2 innings. So it's just an adjustment that everybody's going to have to figure it out. And just pitcher, catcher, I think getting on the same page. And it felt hard to get through like a sequence, you know, like if I was shaking Tucker a couple of times, like if you shake twice, by the 3rd time, it's like clock's at 1, you got to pitch. That's going to be an interesting thing. So, but I think that just pitchers and catchers are just going to have to do a much better job, like game planning before the start, so you have everyone's on a good page of what you might want to throw, you know, going into it.
2 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits. Obviously, he was working through some stuff. I just don't think it's a big deal. Like, he's going to have multiple starts and side sessions to be able to now work on it for a month. Mm-hmm. In a month, I think you can get used to pitching faster. Even though you're a veteran guy and has been doing it for a long time, I think they'll be fine.
Well, I know talking with some, you know, the pitching coaches, and they're doing it. They're not doing it every single second of every pitch they throw and during their workouts. Like there's some bullpen time where they're more focused on just working on things than getting used to the pitch clock. But like live BPs, they've been obviously running through that stuff, and so there's all those scenarios, and you know, not everything matches up to like a game scenario. When things kind of, you know, that time kind of flies by maybe a little bit quicker, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity the next 30 days for these guys just to get really drilled in, like how fast that pitch clock goes.
I don't really remember if either of them were particularly slow workers at this point, like just on the clock, but I don't care about any of this, frankly. Whatever they want to do, it's whatever. I would love to watch John Lackey or John Lester get a violation for not pitching quick enough. That's the only thing I could think of. I want to see some of these, like, you know, angrier kind of, you know, Madison Bumgarner.
I look at Kyle Farnsworth body slam.
Scherzer in a big moment, like the umpire going, you know, violation, and them like just staring them down. That's what I want.
And then we saw like Scherzer the other day where he struck a guy out in like 27 seconds. Like he was working fast. But I'm like, there may be a time where he, you know, has had to slow, or he had, you know, forgot how many disengagements he's had or whatever it is, and then they call him on something. You know, the Mad Max eyes.
I want the entertainment, you know, like
I think I did say the other day, I think on Monday when we were talking about the just overall reaction to it, I think I said that I felt like the older vets it was going to take them longer to adjust because they are just kind of set in their ways, like old people are. Sorry, Luke.
How did I get brought into this whole thing?
Because you're looking at me like
I was thinking of Jeremiah yesterday saying, "Get off my lawn."
Luke was a fast worker.
Get off his
when he
lawn.
was a pitcher.
Oh yeah,
you know, get the ball.
Ball
throw
four.
The
Ball four.
Burley-esque stuck my.
I will say that Luke is one of the few like older people that I've conversed. He's older than all three of us.
Elderly was the word he was looking for. But yeah,
he's one of the few older generations than us.
Old heads is what he was going to say.
That has been very supportive of the pitch clock. Everything I've seen on social media from like older people, like they hate this.
Yeah, the traditionalists.
Yeah.
Not
like
me.
Facebook,
Not me, baby.
Oh man, Cubs Facebook right now, they are in shambles.
Yeah.
An absolute shambles.
Losers. Let's get this thing over in 2 hours. We haven't got time for this. 2 hours max. That's what I want. We're going to have the Matt Mervis interview coming up with Ryan here in the second segment in just a bit. But first, we want to tell you about baseball season's here, and you can get your latest fantasy baseball news from RotoWire, a pioneer of fantasy sports for more than 25 years. Cheat sheets, custom player rankings to fit all leagues, rotisserie points, 10 category, 30 category. You can let their experts analyze all the wild baseball stats for you, especially if you're old like me. WRC plus, barrel rate, sleeper prospects, hard hit rate, etc. Mock drafts galore, ask the expert function, premium fantasy draft kits, custom start, sit, add, drop, trade advice, lineup optimizers, access to fantasy, DFS, and sports betting articles, and not just baseball, fantasy advice on everything from golf, soccer, NASCAR, XFL, dare I say. For a limited time, RotoWire is giving you a free 2-day trial to our listeners here at CHGO. Just go to rotowire.com/CHGO to register right now. No commitments. They're so confident that you're going to like their product and want to invest in a subscription plan. They don't even ask for a credit card up front. So take a sneak peek behind the paywall. When the trial is done, then you decide if a RotoWire package is right for you.
I know I love fantasy sports. I don't know if you guys play fantasy sports, but I absolutely love fantasy sports. So that's going to be good. RotoWire.
I don't do baseball usually, but if I'm going to do it this season, I'm 100% doing that because I need constant help.
You need someone to tell you what to do.
That's right.
He's going to be texting Brendan for like, hey, they got barrel rate on here. Like, let me know.
Well, they also, from my understanding, RotoWire also does this for fantasy football as well. So, you get it now and then have it for football season too if you're big on fantasy baseball as well. The only thing I've ever disliked about fantasy baseball is that it's not like fantasy football where it's just like one day.
Right.
Well,
That's
like
why you
baseball-
need RotoWire.
Yeah.
I don't need it for fantasy football.
Right.
I don't think. I mean, I haven't done well in my leagues the last couple of years, but so maybe I do. But
Spend
it's
some.
because it's once a week. I can handle the information coming in. When you're setting a lineup for every day,
Yeah.
well, that's a lot of information. You need an assistant.
Absolutely. I agree.
Um,
Might even help you with your gambling as well.
yeah. Corey, when should we expect the first hot dog picture from Wrigley Field?
Opening day.
Opening day, you'll be there?
Yeah.
Yeah, as quick as I can get in there.
Well, if you're looking to go out opening day and maybe enjoy a hot dog with Corey Friedman, you should buy your tickets with Game Time. Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. You ever dream of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? The 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Cubs tickets. Sean's around here somewhere is probably looking for White Sox tickets on Game Time. Bears play in the fall. Blackhawks, Bulls, Sky, Red Stars, Fire. Cody, you may be going out to the Big Ten tournament next
Yeah,
week?
Jake, me and Jake, we were talking about going to the Big Ten tournament at the United Center next week. So
Game Time.
Game Time. We were actually looking at tickets on Game Time.
There you go. So Game Time's created by the fans, for the fans, guarantees the lowest price. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the Game Time link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. Yeah.
Very nice. Shane says he can be the first fan into Wrigley on opening day. Book it. That is a challenge to you, Mr. Friedman.
Yeah.
I don't get there that early. Yeah, no.
As
the
early
way
as
that
you
It'll be too cold. Like, no way. Yeah, I'll stroll in at, 1, maybe.
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
One-ish.
Fair enough. We'll still get a hot dog then.
Yeah, I mean, you want to go, you don't want to get there right away. The onions need time to caramelize. You want them, like, nice and brown.
True.
You just
It's a
hope that
science,
hot
you
dog
guys.
wasn't one left over from the seat. That's what scares me about opening day. Was the hot dog one that was left over and put in a fridge from last year?
No, I got, you got to go to the stand. There's 2 women who are running the stand above on those stairs at Gallagher Way. If you walk down the third base line, you make the left, go out to Gallagher Way. On the left side of that little patio, best hot dog in the
that's the
stadium.
spot.
Yep,
Okay.
inside baseball for you.
Inside
That's the place
Wrigley.
to go. It's not the only place to go to get the grilled onions and everything, but they do it. They do it the best.
Ask
They do
for
it right.
Karen or Shirley. One of those two is
Right.
the hot dog person.
Mention me by name, they'll know. No, they
Yeah.
won't. They will not. But
Give them code Corey
yeah,
for fresh caramelized
Discount code.
onions.
20% off.
All right, so Ryan got a bunch of great interviews in Arizona. We've been holding some of them, and today we're showing you the Matt Mervis interview. Monday he was 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, and I thought to myself, well, this is why, small sample size, overreaction, but that's what I thought to myself, this is why people are saying don't rush him opening day. This is why you have Hosmer, Mancini, other options at first until he's ready. Yesterday, 1 for 2, runs scored, 1 strikeout against the Brewers. So he has been, I like the way he responded to an 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. That said, We're taking Ryan back to the days when he was in beautiful, sunny Arizona. Here he is with Cubs prospect Matt Mervis.
It's Ryan Herrera of CHGO. We're in Mesa, Arizona, and today I'm joined by Cubs first base prospect Matt Mervis. Matt, how's it going today?
It's going well. Nice day out. It was cold the last couple of days and windy, so got some sunlight and good day to hit today.
How so far has spring training gone for you? I know it's been, this is the end of the first week of spring training. I know you've been here for a little bit longer. How has it gone so far for you?
It's been fun. I've gotten a lot of live at-bats, a lot of game-like reps against pitchers, so that's all I can ask for to get ready for games starting tomorrow, and done some good defensive work with the coaches. Starting to get more into a team setting today, so everything's going well.
And one of the things that's happening is you'll be leaving camp actually to go play for Team Israel. Number one, do you know when you are leaving camp? And number two, just what does that mean for you? Why did you want to play for Team Israel in the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, I'll be leaving March 6th. We have exhibition games in Jupiter, and then we're heading down to Miami, I think on the 10th or on the 10th. And my grandmother grew up in Israel, and a lot of my extended family still lives there, so it's just a badge of honor to represent her and to play for her country.
So what has it taken, I guess, or the balance between obviously getting ready for the season here in spring training, but also knowing that you're going to leave here in a week and a half or so and be gone for what could be a couple weeks now? What is that balance like for you?
That's why I got out here a couple weeks early. I wanted to get used to the weather and the time change and get acclimated into the locker room with the coaching staff and some of the big league guys that I haven't met yet. So it'll definitely be a balance, but I know there are a few other guys that have had some big league time and are also playing in the World Baseball Classic, so I'll look to them and see how they're going about their business and how they're balancing their days with, preparing for not only spring training games but also games that have a little bit more on the line.
And this is your first big league spring training, I assume. What has it been like for you being around a lot of these guys, veteran guys the Cubs are bringing in, just getting to pick their brains and learn from them and watch them?
It's been great. You look at a couple of the corner infielders that we just brought in, Hosmer, Mancini, and Rios, who all have a lot of big league time. Hosmer obviously he's had a very successful career. He's won a World Series. He's won a couple Gold Gloves. Left-handed hitting first baseman. So there's plenty I can learn from him and just watch how he goes about his business and how he's sustained such a successful career.
And I want to take it back to, so you had the weird draft, right? The 5-round draft, weren't drafted. What was it about the Cubs when they came calling? I think Jed had said maybe a couple minutes or even a few seconds after the draft ended, they were on the phone with you. What was it about the Cubs that drew you and made you want to sign with them?
I just have some history with the Cubs. Even going back to high school, the scout that signed me after the draft was Billy Swope. But in high school, I talked to Billy. I'd played for the Cubs in East Coast Pro. And then in college, Billy was still my area scout in the Mid-Atlantic. Played for Mike Roberts in 2019, who was a rover at the time with the Cubs. I talked to Justin Stone, the hitting director, a bunch leading up to the draft and throughout that process. So it kind of felt like I already knew some people in the organization. Stoney laid out a good plan for how we would attack my hitting development if I signed with the Cubs. So I kind of had, I don't know, he said there was some low-hanging fruit that we could attack right away. So I had a good plan right away, could hit the ground running with the Cubs.
And so going that 2021 season didn't go the way you wanted it to, but then the 2022 season obviously did. What was it did something click that off season or early in the season? Like, what was it that kind of helped you make that jump? And obviously you went through 3 levels, so you did make a jump. What is it that clicked, or what changes did you make that helped you kind of make that jump?
A lot of it was mental. I did a lot of work on that in the off season, just trying to get out of my own head, stop being so mechanical when I was hitting, and just let my physical ability take over. And then I took a swing early in the year at Fort Wayne, and it was like a familiar swing. Like, that's how I'm supposed to be hitting, and it wasn't anything that I had felt in 2021. So every day after that, it was just trying to get back to that feeling, and my early work was dedicated to feeling good before the game, so that when I did get into the game, I didn't think about mechanics at all.
And your experience of going from each level, high A, double A, triple A, what were some of the challenges of doing that and going to higher and higher levels, facing better and better competition?
Yeah, I mean, the talent just gets better. The guys in double A just have better stuff than the guys in high A. Everything's a little bit sharper. They command their off speeds a little bit better. And then AAA, the scouting reports are good. There's a lot of guys with big league time who really know how to pitch and how to attack a hitter's weaknesses rather than just pitch to their own strengths. So just kind of adapting and learning how guys are going to get me out rather than just knowing what the pitcher's best pitch is and trusting that he's going to go to that.
So now going into the 2023 season, obviously the roster looks different now than it did even at the end, early in October when the season ended. What have, either the front office or the coaching staff, what have they kind of laid out for you, or what have they said is sort of the opportunity in front of you?
Yeah, they just said go out and compete. It's spring training. There are plenty of guys here that I can learn from, and yeah, I mean, go play hard, and I don't dig into that stuff. It's none of the decisions are going to be made by me, so all I can do is go out and play hard and try to earn a spot whenever it comes.
So in that sense, what are you hoping to accomplish, between now and the beginning of the regular season, or between now and the beginning of the regular season, or when the regular season starts? Like, what are kind of your goals early on for this season?
I don't set goals. I don't like goals. I don't like chasing numbers or trying to achieve certain things, because say I don't hit a home run for the first 2 weeks of the season, I don't want to panic and try to hit home runs and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, my goal is just go pretty much have a good game every day. I wake up every day and just try to play well, whether it's offensively, defensively, base running, do something to help an infielder or a pitcher out, just along those lines.
I have a couple more for you. Number one, you're at Wrigley Field. You were in Chicago towards the end of the season, that minor league camp. One, how did that go? What was that experience like, being at Wrigley with a lot of the top prospects in the system?
That was really cool. We saw the last 3 home games, and the Cubs were out of the playoffs, and the stadium was still packed. The environment was great. They gave Jason Hayward a nice ovation and thanked him for everything he's done for the organization. So it was really cool to experience that and see how interactive the fans are. And then, just hanging out with a lot of the guys that I had played with throughout the season, just getting to see everybody again in a much more relaxed environment instead of, the long, straining season. So it was fun. It was a great time, and we even got some end-of-the-year meetings out of the way there instead of in the offices here or on Zoom. So it was cool.
And very quickly, what was your favorite part about Chicago?
The food.
Food? Any specific?
We went to Abba one night. Good Mediterranean food, the Israeli background.
Okay.
I was very happy there.
All right, Matt, thank you for joining us today. For CHGO Cubs, I'm Ryan Herrera signing out.
All right, good stuff with Matt Mervis. We'll break it all down in a couple minutes. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about the prospect rankings that he's moving up in for MLB Pipeline just this morning. But first, Cody, I want to know about your DraftKings pick of the week.
Grandpa Stuckey, I can't believe you asked. I mean, coming off the night that I had, I can't believe anyone would want anything from me, but, bad nights mean you just got to keep trying. So tonight I'm taking the over in Providence and Xavier. Over 154.5. Both teams play fast. Both teams like to score points. Both teams a little they're at the top of the Big East. They like to score, and it's going to be a real competitive one. So, give me the over. We're rooting for points tonight. Providence, Xavier. That's right.
My Mizzou pick of the week is Mizzou -4 at LSU tonight at 8 p.m.
I would take it as well.
I haven't given one in a while. It's been a couple
LSU
weeks.
is awful. They're straight ass. Last week, though, I bet on Vanderbilt to beat them in a parlay. LSU had lost 14 straight games, and that just happened to be the game that LSU won. So I'm staying away from any freaking LSU game. That was brutal. This is just brutal. I was so mad. I've never been more mad at teenagers than that.
Corey, do you have a Michigan pick you'd like to make or no?
Michigan plays Illinois on Thursday. So.
What do you say?
Michigan money line.
Hey, Corey, what do you say? Michigan, Illinois.
I don't know. Michigan's all over the place, man. I'm out of my I'm a front runner, when
Yeah.
Michigan's ranked like top 5 in football. I'm the biggest Michigan football fan you ever met. But
really
right
is.
now, I'm like, I don't know.
We
Whatever. Like,
me and Corey were at one of the bars in Wrigley during the college football season, and we were there mainly to watch Illinois, but they had the Michigan game on too. They were playing like Penn State that day, and I'm like sitting there watching Illinois, sweating it out because Illinois' football team was good for the first time in like, I don't know, 10 years, and Michigan's just steamrolling Penn State, and just like, yeah, diehard Michigan fan, always been here, best team in the Big Ten, let's ride. And then I remember texting him after they lost to TCU, and he was like, I don't care, whatever. I was never a fan.
Oh, that's
All right,
right.
Corey, block him.
That's how everything is.
I've earned the right to waiver going to school there for 4 years and having them break my heart every 5 or so years. They get to some kind of national championship game, either in basketball or football. I travel across the country. They lose, and
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It is fair enough. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, committed to helping families and businesses in the communities we serve save money and energy. ComEd offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, whether it's lighting, HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. They can be done in person or virtually, last about 2 hours. Then within 3 to 4 weeks, customers get a report detailing energy efficiency projects they can start working on right away. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. Don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy-saving tips, to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz. If you're ready to sign up for that facility assessment, you can also call them at 1-855-433-2700 during normal business hours, and you can speak to a ComEd Energy Efficiency Program representative. You can also email businessee@comed.com or request an assessment online on their website, comed.com/facility assessment. I see a lot of CHGO gear here. We've got some obvious shirts, a lot of great opportunities for stuff. Foco's another one. Chicago, you've already got the best coverage for your favorite team, so get fitted out in this best sports gear around. Foco's got you covered from Soldier Field to the living room, north side, south side, hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. Get decked out like DeMar with apparel from the leader in sports merch and collectibles, Foco. Looking for that perfect gift for the football fan in your life? Foco's got you covered. Hoodies for the Lake Michigan breeze. Maybe it's another hoodie for Cubs opening day if you're afraid to go to the ballpark early like Corey Friedman.
afraid.
Check out Foco.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. They've got great bobbleheads, so you want to work on that bobblehead collection, it's another great place to do it.
I really good for me because on that same point, if you want like the bobbleheads at the stadium, you got to get there before they even open the gates. People are lined up. They only give out, I think, 10,000 of them. So like on a packed summer night, no chance am I getting one of those. So
that's why we're happy to have Ryan, because he's the reason we got the Nico one last year.
Right there, right on the set today.
There it is, right there. You're welcome.
Very nice.
I bring something to this show.
Yeah.
I bring something to this company.
Speaking of Foco, though, I really wish I just went ahead and spent the money on the Matt Schwarmer bobblehead.
Oh, yeah?
Because
he just signed.
He just signed with the Braves. Yeah. And he's just a forever Cubs legend now, and I just feel like he would be perfect on the set. That way, when we're still doing the show in like 5 years, people would see him and be like, who is that guy? And he's like, you don't know who the Schwarm dog is? Like, that guy had the best leg kick any pitcher I've ever seen.
CHGO bobblehead Hall of Fame. We could have a little glass case of.
We could have got it from Foco, and,
we blew an opportunity.
You might still be able to get it.
Might still be able to.
Ryan also brought us that great interview with Matt Mervis, super prospect for the Cubs, hoping to make the roster. May or may not happen, but MLB Pipeline just this morning putting out their new prospect rankings. We say this, it's just a list, but this is a good one. These are the top 10 Cubs prospects now, and you see some names kind of moving around. It's always Pete Crow Armstrong, Kevin Alcantara, Brennan Davis in some order or fashion, but that's usually the way it's been. Alcantara played yesterday as well. And so it goes Armstrong, Alcantara, Davis, Horton Wesneski. And there you see Matt Mervis now up to number 7 on that list after his great season last year. Ben Brown pitched yesterday. Jackson Ferris, former number 1 pick. Christian Hernandez. We've seen him. He joined Twitter about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I remember seeing that.
So that'll move you up a prospect list, joining Twitter a little bit. Anyways, Matt Mervis, what do you think is best case scenario for Matt Mervis this season?
I think that, before they signed Mancini, I was all about Mervis making the opening day roster just because
they needed someone.
They needed someone. They had
Split
signed
first base.
Hosmer, who they got because he was literally the league minimum, and the Padres and the Red Sox were paying him to not play for him. That's how bad he was. So, to pick up Hosmer, and then I thought they weren't going to get Mancini either. I was just like, all right, we got to give Mervis the chance here because this ain't going to go well if it's Hosmer every single day for however long they decide. But now that Mancini is here, and also Bellinger can place him first as well if they absolutely needed him to, if they wanted to get a different guy in the lineup to play center or right field, especially now that Seiya is out. I think Mervis should at least be down there the month of April and then bring him up when it gets a little bit warmer. To me, honestly, I know he doesn't have as many at-bats at AAA as he did the other levels, but he was good at the Arizona Fall League too. To me, he doesn't have much to prove. There's nothing else left for him to prove, in my opinion. He's had some good at-bats here in the spring, however much you want to put into that. But obviously they went and got those guys for a reason. I think, Ryan, you said that when we were off air, when we were just kind of chatting it up on Monday. And I think that's a good point. Like, the Cubs obviously want to see more seasoning for him down in the minors before giving him that opportunity. So I know people want to see him. I want to see him. Believe me, I want the replacement of Anthony Rizzo as much as anyone else, man. But at that said, we can't rush the guy, and I would say early May would be my guess, or like what I would like to see if there's no injuries or anything like that.
When I look at it, he's kind of in the same boat as Brennan Davis to me. Just he doesn't need to be up on opening day. It's another tough time to acclimate to the big leagues in general, but definitely at Wrigley Field, not easy. And yeah, they went out and signed Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini during the winter, and then they went and signed Edwin Rios at the beginning of camp. Like one of the last few days I was down there, they did infield, outfield, and they had Mancini, Hosmer, and Edwin Rios all at first base, taking first. So Edwin Rios is a guy that could potentially, in a pinch, play first base for them. It's just another point to me that shows that not that they don't believe in Matt Mervis, but they're not looking to just bring him to the big leagues as soon as possible. Like, let him. And I love talking about the interview itself, just kind of the mentality he shows. He's like, I don't want to put pressure on myself, one, to make the big leagues, but to have some crazy opening to the year where I'm trying to hit home runs, and my focus is on, like, the way he talks about it, it's like, I'm glad he sees it that way, at least talking to me, sees it the way that he doesn't need to go out and try to prove himself on the first day of the season or even the first day of spring training, right? Like, he just is going to go out, do his thing, and let the chips fall how they may. Because if he's playing well and proving that, I do not need to be at AAA anymore, I am ready for the big league. If he's playing well and does it himself, well, then the Cubs, he forces the Cubs' hand at that point. Like, he forces the Cubs, like, hey, maybe this guy just needs to be in the big leagues now, right? Yeah. So he could force the Cubs' hand in that way, but he just has to have the mentality that whatever they do, wherever they start him off at, he's just going to go out and try to be the best player he can be. And so I like that mentality from him, where he's not gonna push, right? Like, he's obviously gonna try to be the best he can be, but he's not gonna push to try to make that opening day roster or to hit 10 home runs by the time Cactus League ends, right? He's just gonna go out and play.
I think it's a good comp to Brennan Davis. They're obviously very different prospects, and the timing and everything is different, but I think it's a similar thing where you don't want, like, necessity on the MLB roster to be dictating how you're evaluating someone like this and moving their trajectory, right? Like, it'll be an interesting conversation if one of Mancini or Hosmer isn't doing well. or maybe ends up in a position where they're not particularly playable, right? Which is, possible with veterans like that have had interesting career trajectories. And Mervis is tearing it up. Do you say, okay, yeah, now is the time, et cetera? But, like Cody said, I mean, he's proven it at every level. He shot up, went to every level, kept doing his thing, kept homering. He's taken some walks in these spring games. Like, he just looks really good. But at the same time, he's 24. Like, he doesn't have a ton of professional experience. I don't think there's anything wrong with, saying, like, look, we want to keep seeing this, keep letting him develop, keep letting him get comfortable. And at the moment right now, you've made moves that there's not a pressing need anymore at this position. If the Cubs are in it in June or July and Eric Hosmer is just grounding into double plays every day, right, which is a possibility, do you change course and switch things? Maybe. That's a different conversation. But I think like everybody else, I'd love to see him. I'm excited about him. I think patience is fine.
I also will say that, as we heard in the video, he's leaving March 6th, which is Monday. So he's only got a few days left in Cubs camp. And, going out and facing all big league caliber pitching, like some of the best big league pitching you can find throughout that tournament, will be very good experience for him. Just as far as facing very top tier big league pitching,
The best he can get.
yeah, right. It's better than what you'll face in like a spring training game for sure. Every game that he plays in that tournament will be, if not definitely better, like at least as good as what he'd be facing in a regular Cactus League game. So as far as getting the experience against big league pitchers like that, this is best case scenario for him. But he is also he's leaving camp and what could be upwards of a couple weeks that he's not going to be with the Cubs staff. And that's why he got down there early and was working and has been in big league camp early just to, make up for some of that lost time. But it is time that he's not sitting there under the eye of all the coaches. So that maybe also affects it a little bit. And say he struggles in the WBC, like what does that do as far as like, okay, we've seen this guy against actual big league pitching. Maybe he's not as ready as he seems to be. And that's a scenario that could happen for sure. And they are the best pitchers that he's facing ever, but those are major league pitchers, right? That's what he'd be facing.
I think Garrett's point in the chat, while we're on here now, the Cubs have started up against the Mariners, and since we were looking at that prospect list, I think it's fun to note that Hayden Wisniewski started this game today against the Mariners, clean inning with 2 strikeouts, started the game by striking out Julio Rodriguez. So
Swagger.
There you go.
Good way to start.
There's a guy saying, oh, you think Sampson's the 5th starter?
Yeah.
I've got something to say about it.
Yeah. He heard our interview with Dan Plesac. He heard what he was saying about Adrian Sampson.
He's heard everything
I don't think
I
so.
said.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's exciting that he did that. I mean, I think Wisniewski is like the biggest wild card for this team that could impact the wins and losses.
It might have been you while you were down there, Ryan, but I saw a video of one of his breaking pitches from that kind of behind the cage view in Mesa. It's just filthy. I mean, the way the ball moves out of his hand is just filthy. And you see it in the chat a little bit. Like, I think the exciting thing about where the Cubs prospect lists are now, PCA's kind of moved himself up into that blue chip. It's extremely rare you get a prospect like Chris Bryant, right, who is up there from day one, and he just checks every box as he goes along, including at the major league level, right? So, I don't think PCA is at that level where you're like expecting that, but he's, moving himself into that trajectory. But the exciting thing about that list, the pipeline list, is like it's such a diverse mix of types of players, right? And types of prospects. You have really exciting hitters who are young and have just massive ceilings. PCA, Christian Hernandez, who is at number 10, very young, but you look at him and you're just like, this guy's swing is beautiful. Like, he's just such a talented athlete. Then you have a guy
down on the list.
I know, right? Yeah. Like, because he joined Twitter. You have a guy like Hayden Wisniewski, who has MLB experience now, but is behind a guy like Cade Horton, who they just drafted and has no professional experience, but a lot of potential. You look at someone like Jordan Wicks, who has no MLB experience, but I think a lot of the prospect guys would say is maybe the most like MLB ready of the prospect pitchers, just because of the pitch mix he has, how he pitched, went to Kansas State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
K-State.
K-State. Just kind of has that, like, he just kind of needs time, but the repertoire is all there to be a not overpowering MLB pitcher, but successful and a guy that can get out. So I just think it's an exciting list because there's just a lot of different, there's some, slightly older guys, there's some really young guys, there's power pitchers, there's workhorse type pitchers. There's a lot of different types of potential on that list.
I like where they came from. Show the list one more time, Sarah. When you see the top 5 prospects that MLB Pipeline is saying, think of this. Pete Crow Armstrong, Javi trade. Kevin Alcantara, Rizzo trade.
Yep.
Hayden Wesneski, Efros trade. 3 of the top 5 guys are from trades that a lot of fans weren't too happy about. But now you see that there's a mixture of 3 of the top 5 are trades that just recently happened, and then there's 2 draft pick guys. And then you go to the other side, and it's another mixture of the same thing where you start to see the draft picks are guys that are starting to develop. I like seeing the draft pick guys, but I'm glad that people are recognizing that the players the Cubs got back, while many people said that return's not good enough, we're not getting somebody. No, they are starting to show up now, and they're showing up in the Cubs' top 5 prospects.
Well, the guy they got for a rental of Javi Baez is, I think he's a 20. According to
Number
MLB
1.
Pipeline, he's a top 20 prospect.
Right, one of the
in
best
majors.
prospects in baseball.
And
It's a
easily
great
number 1.
evaluation by Cubs scouting and player development, all of that. Like, it's insane to me when people talk about, I read it on social media all the time when people talk about how the Cubs they have this inability of evaluating talent and stuff. I read it at least once a day. It blows my mind because the farm system, you just look at it and you're like, well, they got like some of their best ranked prospects they got in trades, and their number 1 draft picks that they've taken the last few years are in the top 10. So like, explain to me like I'm 5 years old then if you think that. And you mentioned the trades, Luke. Well, Canario is number 11, and Killian moved down to 18 because he lost his command, but he looked good a few days ago. I know it's just one game, but like there's there's so much upside.
If Canario hadn't gotten, that was an awful injury, multiple injuries at one time. I'm not sure where he would be on this list, but
He's not back on the field.
He's
by
not on
the
the
way,
field.
despite-
right.
Social media stuff.
He would be.
He would have been an automatic, I think. I think he would have
play right field.
Yeah, he would have got the first opportunity, I think.
Or at least been in that mix, because he's one of those guys you just bring up and let him swing away and see if he just hits some bombs.
And he's on the
at Wrigley
40
Field
man,
for a
so I
month.
feel like that's a big part in how he could have got that first option.
Yeah.
We talked about Mervis hitting 30-plus bombs last year. Canario did too. Like, he had earned every opportunity to be on the Major League team last year as well. So.
Jeff is correct. Yeah, people on Twitter do say a lot of
makes
dumb
a good
stuff.
point that people on Twitter say. Yes.
No, when I saw this list, and it is still like crazy how high they are on guys like Cade Horton and Jackson Ferris, who they didn't like rush into rookie ball or whatever it was last year. Like, they drafted them. I remember getting to meet Horton and Ferris at Wrigley towards the end of the year. They brought them around, showed them the facilities. Like, those are their 2 top picks from this last year's draft. They didn't have them join any of those short season leagues. And these guys, the evaluators who, at Pipeline are very good at what they do. They are very high on those 2 guys who, again, have not pitched for the Cubs as far as rookie ball goes. So you look at just the evaluators and what they see, and yes, prospects always, don't pan out or don't. Like, that happens all the time.
You love the potential, though.
Yeah, you love the potential, and you feel good about, like, okay, if the evaluators are saying good things about what the Cubs did in these drafts, then maybe you should start feeling a little bit better about what the Cubs did too.
And to top it off, the article that MLB.com put out about the release of the top 30, like the new ranking, the headline was, "The Cubs farm is as strong as it's been since 2015.
Yeah.
Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, people.
March 1st, Hope springs eternal. That's what we got. Hope is back. Opening day's almost here. We got 4 weeks to go.
Yeah.
Cubs baseball's almost back. And
5 with us.
Cactus, 5.
We're just trying to cope through that injury news, really.
A
Just
lot
get
of
through
this
it.
conversation was a lot of coping.
Yeah, just a big bummer. But
I love
like
the play-by-play
Bellinger got a
from the
double
chat. You
according
should be
to
focusing on our podcast. I'm kidding.
those games don't even count.
They have the game on
Meanwhile,
mute.
let me
They have
tell
it-
you
they
about
have it
Hayden
on-
Wesneski striking.
Multitask.
guys.
They have it on muted
Multitask.
on one screen, and then they listen to us
Yeah,
talk.
definitely.
That's the way I think of it.
Corey, are you gonna do our introductions before we leave? Are you gonna what Jeremiah did?
Oh, you want me to try to one up Jeremiah?
Yeah.
I don't think
No,
so.
you don't want
I don't
to?
think I should try.
Okay.
I think it's probably wise.
It's
Seems like a good idea.
I just wanted to ask just in case.
Yeah, when I was listening to that interview yesterday, like Luke brought it up, I think right at the beginning. Like, I can't believe he's been doing this for a few years now. Like, I remember like
Third season.
I know it's
this
like
year.
it's wild that it's been that long. Yeah.
So no.
Nah.
Okay.
Gonna pass. Gonna pass.
he's gonna-
Maybe next week.
It's a no for him. dog.
When I tried to read the Stroman tweet about
the Sanker.
Gonna be
I didn't like that. I'm not doing any more
Slider's
projecting
gonna
or
be
anything
sliding.
like that. Yeah.
when he read that quote, it was one of the more funnier moments of this podcast history.
Unbelievable.
All right. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here on Thursday at 1:20 for another live show. Until then, fly the W.